First of all, I want to thank you guys for inviting me to do this. A couple of years ago, I dared myself to say yes to more speaking opportunities against my better judgment. I am a work in progress when it comes to this, so have mercy on me. I'm up here talking about infographics today. From what I've heard, everyone is pretty excited about infographics, and I am too. I'm the lucky person who gets to do this as their job every day. Creating visual solutions is part of what we do at Ebbeka Design, and I guess I got to follow my dream to be able to do that all the time. So I'm hoping to impart some information that will hopefully make you guys' lives a little bit easier in your jobs, and also, you know, kind of just help your day-to-day job go a little bit smoother if you have a request to create an infographic. Janet Dennison was the person who invited me to speak today, so I especially wanted to thank her for giving me the chance to come up here. And she has been begging me to join IABC for probably 15 years, and I just signed up yesterday, so yeah. I finally caved. No, actually, I came to a meeting a couple months ago, and I really enjoyed it, and I feel like everyone here that was in attendance on that day was just the kind of people I like to talk to, people interested in marketing and communications. So it was really all you guys that kind of helped move me into the membership lane. So thanks again, Janet, I appreciate it. So I mentioned, as Christina mentioned, I'm Amy Ebbeka. I'm co-owner and creative director of Ebbeka Design Co. And we have been in business since 2001. I'm skipping around a bit. I should have changed those bullet points. But I've actually been in the graphic design field since 1995. And even before I started in the field, that was when I considered myself to be a professional, when I graduated from college. But even when I was in college, I had graphic design related jobs. So I was you could almost add 3 more years onto that if you wanted to. So that's been a long time. I think I first thought about being a graphic designer when I was probably about 14 or 15, when I realized fashion designer probably didn't have much potential in the Midwest. So I really started creating logos for friends just with pencil and paper, and got a real kick out of it, and luckily it was a program at UNL that I could pursue and become a professional, so that was really great. After working in a lot of different places in Lincoln and Omaha, and even a little stint in Chicago, my husband and I decided to start Ebbeka Design Co. And a part of that is just our passion for helping clients. That's why we initially got into it. If anyone here owns a business or is a small business owner, you can imagine that was a pretty crazy jump to make. The struggles of being a small business owner are plentiful, and we've made a go of it these past 16 years, so it's been a journey, and we're kind of blessed to have success year after year. We're located in the Haymarket. If you're ever down there by the mill, you might see a little sign that says Ebbeka Design. You'll notice it now because you'll remember my name. And if you're on the mill dock, can head up to the 3rd floor. Some people know our office as Loft at the Mill. Was a place for performance space that was there for quite some time, so that's the space that we're in. We've got 7 people in there, and for the most part we're focusing not so much on infographics, believe it or not, although they are a part of what we do. We're usually focused on web, identity, and print design. We also do social media, photography, videography, all forms of communication that go along with marketing a business, whether it be small to medium-sized or nonprofit. So that's my spiel there. This is our space. I'm so proud of this because one day when I was in Chicago, I was like, oh, someday I want a cool space, just like, you know, the big city. So I feel like we kind of got that. There's me and the guys up there. We have an all-guys staff right now, so if you know any women, please have them apply with me. I need to talk about something else other than video games, so if anyone in sports, football, please. Anybody knows girls, have them look me up. I don't want to work with these guys forever. But I like our space. It's pretty cool. You can stop by anytime. So this is a lot of words here, but talking about infographics, who here knows what an infographic is? Everyone knows. It's a visual form of communication. You definitely can use these tools to help engage people reading your content and become a little bit more interested in what you have to present. And you can also convey your message in a more concise and entertaining way. A lot of times you can use them in newspapers, magazines, blogs, social media, newsletters, e-newsletters, websites, and probably a lot more. So there isn't really any limit to where you use infographics. And keep in mind too that when you use them and you put a lot of work into it, it makes sense to use it in multiple places because then it'll get seen in more avenues. So we definitely use multi-purpose those infographics for a lot of different channels and try to get the most bang for your buck. So here's just a few that we've designed for clients in the past couple years. This is one, for example, that we did for Milkworks, and I think it turned out really nice. Their idea was to do a growth chart on the side, so as they were celebrating an anniversary for 15 years, they wanted to show the growth that they've had over the years. This one was a labor of love. If you can imagine coordinating with a client and they have a lot of ideas and things, this went through many revisions to get to this point, but I think as you work through projects like this, it's important to keep refining it and refining it until you strike upon the perfect balance of words and images. So you can kind of see how the graphics all match each other. It has a very appealing color scheme, custom illustration throughout. This is another one, a little bit more corporate application for 2080. And this is the Big Six. So this is actually their foundation for their business. This was something that they sent out to employees and salespeople just to remind them what's important in their business on a daily basis. And it was made into posters. And so it had a lot of legs. It definitely helped them to stay focused on their mission on a daily basis and to be able to imagine that these values in every exchange they have with their customers. So why are they so popular? Well, actually, we don't really like to read that much. I'm sorry, all you writers out there. I think people definitely, writers, I got to give it up to you guys because that's like one trait I really wish I possessed because I'm not the best writer. But and I appreciate and value it. But the fact is in today's world, we're just inundated with information. So sometimes it's nice to hook them with an infographic, and then they can dig in deeper if they find that they're interested in that particular topic or a set of statistics. Really, there's a lot of statistics online that say that it's even, publishing an infographic might show as much as 12% traffic in your actual social media post. So there's really a lot of data that backs up the visual being something that is really engaging for users online especially. So what are the first steps in creating your own infographic? That was something that Janet and I talked about initially. I was like, what do you think people need to know about infographics? Where to start? And I always kind of come back to how to kind of wrap your head around a project. And I think if you have any projects that you don't have a good foundation on, it's going to probably take you a lot longer than if you have a plan. So the first thing I think is to make a plan. What are some tools to use to create infographics? I might actually ask you guys a quick question about that when we get to that point, because there's a lot of tools out there that you can use, and they're all kind of really good. That's what I figured out. I researched all of them, and there's really a lot of options out there for you, and it can be pretty complicated to decide which one you're going to go with. And then finally, how do you decide which type of graph to use your data? I'm going to show you guys a cool tip that can help you guys create more interesting charts and graphs, because you can even go beyond the normal big three charts, line, bar, and pie chart. There's even more out there. So I'm going to show you a cool trick, and you guys can maybe visit that in your spare time and dig into that. And then finally, what are the best practices when it comes to infographic design? And a lot of these are just core design principles, so I'll try to maybe keep it short so that I don't bore you guys to death with all the designer talk. So I would say, as I mentioned, to get started, you need to do your research and make sure that you have a good plan before you get onto the computer. Take pencil to paper, sketch it out, erase it. Sometimes when we're doing designs, we might take pieces of paper and move them around, cut them with scissors and move them around. I think right now we're in a really digital world, and I think the analog is almost left behind. You can always use just regular old pencil and paper. That's where I'd start. There's also online mind mapping tools out there, which I know are becoming very popular. How many of you guys have used a mind mapping tool to work on a project? You got 2, 3, 4, about 6, 7 people. It's pretty cool. My mind doesn't really work that way, so I haven't quite been able to wrap my head around it yet, but that mind mapping is something you can search for online and learn about how you can use that to plan a project. The most important thing as a communicator, and I know you guys all agree with me, is to tell a story. So even an infographic, while it's not written in paragraph format, needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, so that you're telling a story in an engaging way, in a way that an audience is used to having it delivered. So, what are the best tools for creating infographics? Now, I use Adobe Illustrator, obviously, because we have to buy a subscription for work, and we have the entire Creative Suite. Not everybody in this room probably has that available to them, and if they do, they may have strengths in Photoshop and InDesign, but maybe don't know Illustrator quite as well. It's hard to know all 3 programs, and so I'm only going to assume that you guys don't have Illustrator, but by a show of hands, how many people here have Illustrator? You guys have quite a few. You're going to get really bored. No, I'll try to breeze through it. How many feel like they're really great at Illustrator? Oh my gosh, okay, the number went down a little bit. I agree, I think the program itself is very complicated, and in fact, researching these tools, all I could think of is, why am I building my infographics in Illustrator? Because it's so time consuming. Some of these tools are it makes it look like you can be up and running in 20 minutes. Now, I know that's not the case, but it definitely looks like that. So these are the ones I found to be the most popular, and I pulled almost all of these internet websites that ranked them in 2017, and you may know some of these names: Visme, Pictochart, Venngage, Canva, Infogram, and Easily. So these kind of are the ones that just kept showing up on every list, and they would have reviews and people would say they're wonderful, but how do you really know? So I was digging a little bit deeper. I think one thing we have to keep in mind here is cost. Obviously, we don't want to spend a fortune on this tool. You may or may not be using it very often, so it doesn't really make sense to have spend a fortune on this subscription. I mean, don't we all have enough subscriptions to pay for these days? How about one more? No thanks, right? So all of these have a free version, and the free version is very limited. A lot of times it's branded with their logo, or you don't have a full selection of all the imagery or charts that they have available. So there are some limitations, and what I've noticed with the free version is a lot of times you only are able to save 3 to 5 infographics at a time. So by paying a higher subscription, it kind of unlocks a lot more functionality, as well as the ability to save and share your infographics. It also makes a difference with the quality of the imagery. Some of the free plans only allow you to save it out to share online and don't offer a print version. So you may not be able to print out a high quality version. If you're planning on using that in a print piece, it would look kind of pixelated, and you probably wouldn't want to show that to your boss or your customer for that matter. So considering upgrading, you can kind of see here how the pricing changes. For the most part, with all these products, there's definitely some more things to consider, which I'll get to in the next slide. And these are all monthly, as if you purchased a year. So this is like pre-purchasing a year, but the rate is monthly. Now, one person I studied online is they were kind of comparing how many Google review counts they had, and I think that would mean that it has more users, so I'm going to include that here. But in his grouping, Visme was the most popular. Canva actually wasn't listed in his grouping of popularity because it does so many other things. It was listed in another category altogether. So Canva definitely could be something you could use for infographics. It's a really popular tool to create just designs in general for social media, all sorts of things. So it's going to put me out of a job someday, I'm pretty sure of it. So pretty much with all these tools, a lot of them are drag and drop functionality. What you see is what you get. So you can grab a pie chart, drag it over to your window, edit the data, update the data if something changes, choose your color scheme and your fonts. So I don't know, I think what I was kind of wondering about this was what makes one better than the other? What would make one a good choice and make one a bad choice? And I think a lot of it comes down to user experience, which you can really know from just doing the free version. And if you decide you don't like the way it feels for you, or it doesn't work the way your mind likes to think about things, you can discard that one and use another. And I think that's the nice thing about having the free options available to everyone before they, try it before you buy it. Now, just kind of going through these, I know we had a lot of Illustrator users in the room. Is there any on this list that, are there any missing from this list that you guys like to use? Is there one that's better than the other in your opinion? I think that this could be a discussion point if anybody wants to speak up.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
Have you noticed the difference between like tablet and phone apps versus using it on the computer? Because, for example, Canva I have on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know if you saw a difference between, or in your reviews or whatever, if there was much of a difference for people using it on a tablet or other forms of devices.
I think I was mostly considering it on the desktop version because I assume that most of us when we're working, if we're working on an infographic, it would probably be easier to work on a desktop. So I didn't really do my homework on that. But it does have a pretty robust mobile app that you can use is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who here likes Canva? Who here uses Canva? Who here hasn't heard of Canva? So who here is glad that they heard about it because now they can make cool stuff on their computer? Okay, that's good. So that's kind of what I was hoping for here is maybe like a little bit of an exchange of ideas in what you're using on a daily basis. So ask each other. You guys have such a great resource here. Everyone has so many varied experiences. Ask each other what they use. Maybe after you're done, sit with your table for a few minutes and just say, hey, what do you guys build infographics using Visme or Pictochart, Venngage, Canva, Infogram? I think I left one out because it was ugly. So I don't know. I figured I'm not even going to show you that one because it's gross.
And this isn't really part of that discussion, but when you were looking at these, do they have their own libraries? I always use Illustrator, so you're making your own graphics.
Right. Using Illustrator and going to iStock and buying things, or going to, I use Icon Finder or, flat icon. I use that one a lot. And then opening an Illustrator is ridiculous. And then you have to change the color of it and whatnot. There's so many different aspects to building an infographic in Illustrator. These things just make it so easy, or at least they're advertised as easy. So yeah, I'd say try them out, see if you like them. And if you find one that you like, Canva is going to be one where you can do so much more than just infographics. It would be well worth the money. I mean, if you go back to the price, it's only $10 a month. So that sounds like a pretty good deal. I also heard great things about Visme, which I had never heard of. And a lot of them have these really gorgeous, user-friendly interfaces where you can just make things to your heart's content and then save them out and share them with others. So yeah, have fun with these tools. Looks pretty cool to me. Is there any that I didn't mention that you guys like to use? Don't say the ugly one or I'll feel really bad.
Now I'm just curious.
Now you have other options. Look at that. It's not just Canva anymore. And there's probably one of these born every minute. Who knows? That just seemed like the current 2017 data I could find. So this is another question I thought people might have, is how to know what kind of chart to use when you're presented with data and some kind of statistics and it's really boring, and your boss gave you this and they wanted to make it look better, or the research department wants you to showcase their latest study, and you're looking at it and going, this is really boring. So obviously you're going to want to put that into a chart. And charts are kind of they're the basis for infographics, really. We can design pretty pictures around them, but a lot of times what it comes down to is showcasing those statistics. So, you got your bar graphs and showing numbers that are independent from one another. So that's going to be the case when you'd like to use that. Pie charts to show how a whole is divided into different parts. We've all seen these before. And then line graphs. Line graphs will show you how numbers have changed over time. So those are kind of like the three big ones. But, okay, I found this cool thing, and you guys got to write this down. But it's called the Data Viz project. And they have amassed an amazing amount of different types of charts and graphs. If you like charts and graphs, this is the website for you, because it is the coolest thing. I mean, the Sankey diagram, the alluvial diagram, donut chart. I mean, even the basics. Anyway, this thing is loaded with ideas. And this isn't even an eighth of it. I mean, I only just took a couple screenshots because I didn't want to go through everything. But if you click on these, it's going to tell you how that chart is used. So this is a really cool site. It's really well designed. I hope they keep it up, because it sounds like it's kind of one of those things where people are donating their time to create it. But it's really neat, and I would really encourage you to check it out and explore different types of charts and graphs. So what are some infographic design best practices? I think starting with an audience in mind is always great to consider who you're speaking to. So your design for a group of teachers would be a lot different than a series of jewelry store owners or something. You want to be sure that you're talking to the audience, and you can use that into your design themes. So obviously this one has a chalkboard theme. Also, I don't think they use chalkboards anymore because the dust is allergic, so I want to change that to something else. Also show, don't tell. If you're creating an infographic and it looks like this is not an infographic. This is just some text with a picture beside of it. So, show in the picture the message you're trying to convey. This is not an infographic. Focus on the flow. You're going to notice a lot with infographics that they tend to alternate color, but keeping things in the same color family. So you kind of go through and it's like, oh, they've kind of got something big and then something little. And each section kind of tells the story. This one even goes so far as to number each section. And it's a little gaudy for my taste, but it's pretty cute. And I think it conveys the point pretty well that it has to be, kind of have a nice flow to it. So I think they did a good job there. Now, prioritizing your typography. I love typography. It's my favorite part of graphic design. So when I saw this one, I thought, let's just leave this up on the screen the whole time because this is gorgeous. But the way that they've handled the typography is really important to note here, because it's really easy to see what the headline is and what the body copy looks like. When they wanted to pull out attention to a percentage or a different bit of statistic, they made it bigger, and they used color. The color scheme I think is great too. I think this one is really, really beautiful. So typography is important. Also, simple color schemes. This is just good design anything, not just infographics, but in life. Just because you can have access to millions of colors doesn't mean you need to use them on every piece that you do. I usually stick to 2 or 3, 5 tops within a color scheme. So define your color scheme And there is a tool, I just thought of this, but it's called Design Seeds. How many of you guys use Design Seeds? It's pretty cool. It's a lot of different color schemes that are found in nature. I really like that one. Adobe also has a color selector tool that's really great to browse and inspire. I should have put that up there, but I just thought of it, so obviously didn't. Color is so important. If you look, oh no, what happened? I didn't do that. If you look over here, you probably can't read this on the top left hand here because the colors are too close to each other. But I bet you can read this, but this one with the yellow on top is really difficult to see. So readability with your colors is so important because you don't want your message to be lost because you decided to put yellow on top of light blue. Now, minimalism reigns supreme. This is another really pretty one I found. Now, this one I could just look at all day. A lot of white space, very simple. It does use a lot of different colors, but it keeps it very muted. This one is very relaxing. If I was looking at monthly loan volume, this would be the chart I would want to look at. And then I always say to my staff when we're working on things like this to find the twist. And I don't know if there's a better name for it, but a concept or some sort of oh, that was clever, I wish I would have thought of that. So find the twist. And this is a good example of how you can find that. This is an infographics, probably fake, about batteries, and they used the gauge of how full the battery is as the chart. So a lot of times you'll see a chart about pizza that's shaped like a pizza, or kind of think of things outside the box that correlate with your subject matter. It's not always the first thing you think of, but if you challenge yourself just a little bit longer to just brainstorm ideas and let yourself be silly, I guess, sometimes you can find really great ideas like this. One thing I always try to tell people is that there's no people out there that aren't creative. It's just people get shy about sounding stupid. So like if you have I always throw my stupid ideas right out. Like I just throw them right out there because, it kind of always sparks an idea from someone else, or it can kind of lead you to a better idea. So don't be afraid to get a little bit silly or kitschy in your infographics, because I think it can add a lot of interest and kind of make people think, oh, yeah, they've kind of thought about this a little bit more than, they expect. So what have we learned today? I hope we've learned the first steps of creating infographics. I think we've covered a lot of new tools. I'm hoping you guys learned a lot of tools that are out there. Feel free to research those on your own. There's loads of blog posts about this. I think I read every one of them. And just try the products out for free. Why not? And but these are some great books up here. And I think I'm gonna give this document to someone so they can post it online or something. So if you guys want to revisit these, if you're interested in really taking a deep dive into infographics, these are some great reading material. These are all my sources. I think I have probably a lot more than just these, but I just wanted to tell you guys where I found these things. There's definitely a lot of information out there that you guys can take a look at. And if you have any questions, feel free to approach me after the speech, and I'll be glad to talk to you one-on-one. And thank you again for having me. This was really, really fun, and I really appreciate all your attention and good questions, and I hope that you enjoyed it too.